Hey, so about 3 weeks ago, I made a video about the benefits of being stealth. So I kind of need to follow up with that, of making a video about the challenges of being stealth. So the one of the biggest challenges for me has been the level of compartmentalization that is required of maintaining being stealth. And by that I mean that there are people who know that I'm trans and people who don't know. And luckily, in my case, most of those people are separated by about 600 miles. Still, keeping those spheres separate can be difficult. There are so many places now where we combine all of the people we know, like Facebook. I have to be very careful about what I post on Facebook, what I say to different people, remembering who knows and who doesn't, who's going to see things and who isn't, being just really aware of that. Having my privacy settings kind of like, making sure that I can't just get tagged in anything. And, making sure that my online presence isn't very easily connected back to my full name. So if people Google me, they can't find that. So that's tough. It just takes a lot of mental gymnastics sometimes. The other thing that has been really big has been anxiety about being outed. And this includes anxiety about me inadvertently outing myself or people guessing that I'm trans. And this was a lot bigger in the beginning than it is now. But when I was first meeting people, I was very nervous about how I walked, how I talked, what I said about myself, and if people would be able to guess. In a lot of ways, it was very similar to the experience of trying to pass early on in my transition. I was just really uptight and nervous all the time. And I am definitely less nervous about those things still, but sometimes I feel insecure about my masculinity and how I present myself. Sorry, my dog is in my lap. and just feel like I have to be really careful about what I say. So, the biggest thing, though, has been this inability to talk about my experiences. And being trans has been like a fairly big part of my life, but that's not even what I mean. Um, I identified as a lesbian for 4 or 5 years before I transitioned, and I was raised female. I have all these experiences from that through my transition. To not be able to talk about those things is kind of huge. I didn't think it would be like that, but I'm in a lot of classes where we talk about our subjectivities or write these papers that are just very personal and responses to readings, trying to ground what we're learning in our own experiences. And while there's so much more to me than just being trans, a lot of the really important experiences in my life or the periods of growth I've had have been related to that in some way or another. So it is kind of difficult to not be able to talk about where you're coming from. And in many ways, if you go back to my video on the benefits, I feel like that is worth it, because if you want to talk about something once and you don't really get to take it back or have people view you the same way again. But it can be very difficult. I found myself avoiding doing a lot of things or saying a lot of things just because I was stealth, feeling as though I was unable to educate people, even though obviously you can know about trans things without being trans. So those were all just difficulties that I faced and that I continue to face. I feel like I'm in a much better place with all of those things, but it isn't easy. There is a lot of anxiety. Sometimes it can be very lonely and alienating. But overall, I would say it has been, I'm glad that I did it, but I am considering being out next time I move. But it is difficult, and there is this awkwardness, because once you get to know people and you get past the getting to know you stage, it does become kind of like, how would you even begin to tell people? And would you want to? So, I don't know. I think being stealth is definitely very, very complicated. There are definitely a lot of benefits and a lot of challenges, and I think I'm not even sure after all this time if it is for me. In some ways, I think it is, in other ways, not. And so, um, yeah, I think it's definitely been a worthwhile experience, though, even if I don't continue to live like that for the rest of my life.